are there any things that you found helpful keys that enhance people's reading of the Gospels, but also what common mistakes have you observed when people read the Gospels?
I think the common mistakes is easier.
Yeah,
I think, and increasingly writers are picking this out, is that we have read them as though the only important bit is the story of Jesus' death and resurrection. And Tom Wright says this brilliantly. It's almost as though all we need is that Jesus was born and then he died on a cross, and the bit in the middle is helpful for like some moral lessons and to prove that he was divine. Whereas the Gospels are trying to do much more than that. And partly this is generational. So for me, the whole idea of the kingdom of God was something I said in the BB motto, but I didn't know what it meant. If you're interested, the BB motto was to extend Christ's kingdom amongst boys, or something to that effect, which I thought meant just make lots of boys Christians.
Yeah.
And that's all it meant. Increasingly, as we get a kingdom perspective in our understanding, you realize that in the Gospels, Jesus, especially in the Synoptics, is portrayed as the one who brings the kingdom, and the kingdom is being established. And then that has a lot more application than just that he came to die, although that is the culmination, that is the critical theme for the kingdom to fully come. So I suppose that in a way that answers both parts of the question. One is people miss the kingdom perspective. They focus only on the cross and a doctrine of atonement, and there's a lot more going on. I think the other mistake, thinking about it, is the mistake of taking it as a too detailed a manual of how to do things. And this is a problem with narrative generally. Just because it happened doesn't mean it should happen. Or that it's normal. It happened, but is this normal for Christians today? That is supposed to shape our discipleship. You can't imagine someone in the 1st century or the 2nd century reading the gospel and just thinking, oh, this teaches me the atonement or whatever. They will be going, how do I live as a Christian? This has insight for me. And Matthew particularly has Jesus saying, right at the end in the Great Commission, teach them all that I have commanded you to. And then he's given us 5 blocks of teaching. So the obvious thing, but not the thing we've obviously done, is to go back through Matthew and go, well, what did Jesus in Matthew's gospel command us to do? We probably don't do that because it's so frightening and demanding. But so they are this disciple-making instruments, but they're not like a manual. You have to be more careful, and some things, are just not going to fit for now. Yeah, so there's mistakes, and I think the best thing is to read it with a kingdom perspective. And the second thing is, and partly it's because I've just read Richard Hayes, is anything that helps you see how a 1st century Jewish reader or someone who understood the Old Testament and knew it would have had greater insight because of the way it's written. And there's a number of scholars, Richard Hayes is one, but there are others that do that. My great hero, Don Carson, does that brilliantly with John's Gospel.